Sharks, hello! We are going to start Photopea today, and I'm going to go ahead and show you some just basic things to get us started. You are to practice this on your own and just kind of follow along with me if you can. I opened up Photopea, and typically you're going to either start a new project or open a project you may have already started. We don't have one that we've started yet, so I'm going to go ahead and open new project. Up here, it'll ask you for some different dimensions, the width, height, and dots per inch, which is DPI, and then a name. You can go ahead and rename this practice, and then we're going to change this as well. This is in pixels automatically. We want to change it to inches, and then we want it to be 8.5 by 11 and 300 DPI. So you can go in and manually change that, or you can come down here, click print, and go to our letter size, which is 8.5 by 11, 300 DPI, so it fills it all in for us, okay? I'm going to go ahead and click create, and there is our document. All right, 8.5 by 11 is a typical sheet of paper that you'll find in a printer. 300 DPI is 300 dots per inch, and that ensures that if we print, the quality is pretty good, all right, even if we enlarge it or shrink it. All right. What I want to go ahead and show you is over here is our history bar. This is going to keep track of our actions. You can actually use it too as an undo button, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. And then here are our layers. When we are creating pieces of art in Photopea, we want to create everything kind of on a different layer. And the reason we do that is because we want to treat each piece like a piece of a puzzle. So I'm going to show you an example of the importance of that in just a moment. What I've done is I just went ahead on Google and I looked for a picture of a beach. It can be a picture of anything you want as long as it's school appropriate. I'm going to edit and I'm going to paste that picture of a beach right here. I'm going to go ahead and stretch it out, all right, just to fit. Again, this is just practice, so I'm just using this as practice. All right, and then what you'll notice is number one, it told me my action, that it's a paste, and then number two, that it put my new picture as a new layer, which is perfect. I'm going to double click where it says layer 1, and I'm going to rename this beach. As you add layers and layers and layers, it's really good to have these labeled, otherwise it'll auto label layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, and it gets really confusing. So making sure you're labeling them as you add layers, I think, is really important. Your background is white and it's locked right now, which means you really can't edit it or do anything to it. You can unlock it by just clicking that, and again, it'll show you in the history bar what you're doing. And then all that means is now you can kind of do stuff to the background. The background is white and you can't see it because it's actually behind my beach picture. In the layers bar, whatever is on top is in front. Whatever's underneath is behind. So if I were to switch these two, then, you know, my white picture, since it's taking up my whole canvas, is in front of the beach, then that's why you can't see that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move that down. When I add a new layer, okay, down here, there's a new layer bar. A new layer button down here on this bar. And if I click add new layer, it'll go ahead and give me a new layer, and what you'll notice is the checker marks. The checker marks mean it is a see-through layer. So it's not white like this one, it's see-through. Okay, and that's good because what that means is anything I do on here, I'll still be able to see the beach behind it. So it won't affect, like this one, you know, how it covers up the whole beach picture. I don't want that to happen. So why would I want another layer? I'm going to show you why right now. I'm going to go ahead and grab my paint tool, okay, my brush and pencil tool. Very similar tools. They're a little bit different, but pretty similar. I'm going to grab my brush tool, and up here, whenever you grab a tool, you guys, there is a lot of options for that specific tool. For example, number 1 is the size, how big you want it. Number 2 is the hardness, and then number 3 is kind of like your style. So number 4 is your opacity, and then blend mode. Let me talk about all of these a little bit separately. First of all, I'm going to change the color so you can see it better. So I'm going to go down here. Right now, my paintbrush color is white. I'm going to click it and change it to something you'll see better, maybe a red. You can kind of move your mouse and play around with all of these different ones, you know, your whole color spectrum here, and pick what you want. I'm going to do a purple. So what this shows you is the color it was before you changed it and what you're changing it to. I'm going to click OK, and now my paintbrush is purple. All right, so right now I have the hardness all the way up to 100%. I'm at 54 pixels, normal, opacity 100%. I am drawing on my beach picture, okay? On the actual picture, I'm drawing on it. That's why this is highlighted. The problem with this is I'm going to go grab my eraser tool, okay? And up here, again, I can edit my eraser tool. I want this to be big. Look what happens when I use my eraser tool, okay? Because I drew on my beach picture with my paintbrush and I went to go erase it, now it's erasing not only my drawing but also my image. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to take my history bar here and I'm going to go back, all the way back. I'm going to get rid of all my brush strokes and go back. Okay, see how that works? If I click this, I can go redo it. Nope, whoop, I don't want to do that, so I'm going all the way back. I want to go to my clear layer, layer 1. I'm going to call this draw. This is where I'm going to be drawing on. And I'm going to make sure that's highlighted. And now I'm going to go back and get my paintbrush and do my drawing. Okay, now watch what happens. If I make a mistake and want to use my eraser tool and I erase it. Perfect. Okay, now I'm only erasing what I did on this layer, because you can only erase things or edit things on the layer that you're on. So now if I click my beach layer and I start erasing, well, now I'm only going to be erasing what's on the beach layer because that's the layer I'm on. Really helpful. This is why it's awesome and really helpful to have these different layers. So again, if I go to the beach layer and I start erasing, okay, it's going to erase parts of my beach, but not my draw layer because I don't have my draw layer clicked. So again, you can only affect or draw on or edit the layers that you're on, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to undo that. All right, now I have my drawing. Okay, let me show you some of these other options. So obviously the size is in pixels. I can change that, make it bigger. You can see it growing. The hardness, this is 100% hardness. Okay, what that means is it's got hard edges. If I turn this down to, let's say, 0, so it's super soft, you can see that it's more of like a misty airbrush kind of spray paint looking paint. And this is really good when we do blending and things. All right, you can change some of these, the blend modes to dissolve. This kind of looks cool. So you can kind of play around with these things. The opacity is how see-through it is. Okay. So is it super see-through? That one's, let me show you a bit. It's almost like watered down paint. So if you turn it down, it'll kind of start looking like watered down paint. This is a cool way if you want to, like, you know, turn the water like a purpley color. You could use that so you can still see through it, but it just gives it that kind of little tint to it. All right. So those are some of your options, and you have very similar ones when you're using the pencil tool also. And then you also have these different kind of tips, and you can make it look more like calligraphy style. All right, the whole time I was doing this, I wanted you to notice that I was doing it on my beach layer. Okay, this will happen so many times to you where you might be on the wrong layer. It's really important that you pay attention to what layer you're on, and this is where your history bar comes in super handy. So I'm going to go back, okay, and undo all of these parts where I drew on my beach layer. There we go, to make sure it's clear. And then I'm going to make sure I'm on the draw layer next time when I'm doing these types of things. Okay, that's the importance. This is how the history bar is super helpful, because it makes you like undo. And then the layer bars, again, are super important just to make sure you're on the right layer. If you saw what I just did there, these eyes can kind of turn on and off. It's almost like a preview. So you can turn it off. This is helpful when you're tracing or things like that, just so you can kind of like, oh yeah, that's what it looks like without the background. Oh, that's what it looks like with the beach on. So this doesn't delete it, it just kind of takes it away for a moment. All right, and then if you altogether don't like that, you can erase it, or you can just scrap it by throwing that layer in the garbage there. All right, the last thing I want to show you is how to save. You're going to come up here and do File, Save as PSD. You are always going to save as a PSD. That stands for Photoshop document. The reason we are going to save as a PSD is because when we reopen it to continue working on it, Photoshop document saves all of your layers. Okay, so that's really important to save our layers so we can continue editing our layers and that all of them are not squished together. So we're going to save as a PSD, and then you should see it kind of shoot down here. Here it is down here, that it has saved. Now the next time you come to Photopea, you can kind of open from your downloads and continue working on an old document that you have saved. Hopefully this made sense to you, and if you have any questions, please email me. We'll be going on to the next couple tools tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in.